$200 million gone.
Hey guys, how's it going? Let me see here. Okay, great to see y'all on here. And yeah, just having a great evening. Hey Bob, thanks for jumping on. We are having a great evening. Okay, who else is jumping? Hey Mark. Let's see. I know I got discombobulated here because my audio wasn't working on my last two videos there. Hey, Verax. But let's see. Having a great podcast this evening, and I hope that you hang on. But let's go through the announcements first. This weekend is the Forest County Bigfoot Festival. And as you guys know, I was scheduled to be one of the speakers. I was the keynote speaker for their first festival, and they invited me back this year. But unfortunately, I had to back out, and so I won't be there. So if you plan on going, tell everybody else I said hi. I'll miss seeing you. Okay, yeah, I won't be at the festival, Katrina. Yeah, unfortunately, no. Some things came up. I know that, well, I went over this a few weeks ago. Just having some medical issues going on, and I've had to back out of all the festivals and conferences that I'm scheduled to speak at. And so we're just sitting this year out. I really pushed myself over the past few years, and I need a break. And that's all it is. Good to see all of you on here. But okay, tell you what, yeah, there's all kinds of festivals going on. So I hope that you'll be able to attend them. There's a bunch, in Pennsylvania. And also, I wanted to invite you, if you're not already members of the group, Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project Facebook group, please join, because all the information is on there. We are having our second camp out of the year. That is June 19th through the 22nd. That's in Allegheny National Forest. And the exact location is on the group. I'm not going to announce it publicly here on the podcast. And so get in the group, Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project, and join us. Join us at the camp out. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's June 19th through the 22nd in the Allegheny National Forest. And let's see. What else? We've got, you can order your official Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project merchandise through me. You can message me. Also, you can order my book on Amazon. You can just type in my name and the word Bigfoot, it'll come up. If you want an autographed copy, just send me a message and we'll get it sent out to you. On Amazon, it's $15. If you order directly from me, it'll be $20, but that's only to cover the postage. So, oh, thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Okay, so guys, if you have any prayer requests, you can make it you don't have to go into any detail at all. Just type in the comments that you're requesting prayer, and that's all I need. Or else you can send me a private message, and I'll, no matter what, I'll put you on the prayer chain. I've got, I think, 3 other prayer requests earlier this week. One member of our former research team is requesting prayer, and a couple other people, and it's just going to be anonymous, and I'm not going to go into detail. But if you're a praying person, you can send up a prayer for everyone yourself. Okay, hold on a second, Tracy. I'm going to put that up. Your son bought a wooden Squatch cutout holding a Pittsburgh Steelers flag. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. Oh, oh, love it. You're going to have to send me a photo of that. I'd love to see it. That's cute. All right, guys. I think our announcement. Oh, Tracy, yeah, absolutely. Pray for our nation and our leaders. Yes, yes, absolutely. We are in need of that. Okay, guys. I don't think that there's anything else that I have in my announcements. Just going over it real quick. This evening, we have a special guest, a friend that I met in person about 11 years ago. And his name is Tom Fodi. He is a pastor and chaplain, a business and community leader, husband and father. And anything else that he wants to say about himself? Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Good to see you here.
Good to see you. Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it. I do a little bit of everything. Keep myself busy.
Yes.
Or as I like to say, keep myself out of trouble.
Yeah. Hey, that's all we can do.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
I
was thinking back about when we first met. That was a long time ago. It feels like a lifetime ago in so many ways.
I know. It really has been.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's good to. I'm honored to be invited to jump on your show.
And I thank you for coming on.
Yeah. It's a privilege.
Yeah, I felt that your story and your background, it needs to be shared a little bit more, in this community. People knew about you a little bit more maybe 10 years ago from a certain TV show,
Yeah.
but I think that they need to be reminded.
Yeah. Yeah. You want me to just jump into it then?
Go right ahead. You can introduce yourself.
So, as Mary said, my name is Tom. I'm professionally I'm a pastor and a chaplain. I served in the Air Force as an Air Force chaplain for about 10 years, and it was after my deployment overseas that a friend of mine and I decided. Let me give you some background. I've always had some interest in the topic of Bigfoot, but only because it was just this great mystery, Americana type thing. I've always loved history and American culture, and so from that perspective, I thought, oh hey, there's this group that's doing these Bigfoot expeditions, and they're going into these hot spots. And I came home from my deployment, and I felt like I need more adventure in my life, like a lot of these guys come home from deployments and they like buy a motorcycle or they I don't know, skydive or something. I decided to go look for Bigfoot. That was my adventure.
Hey, why not?
Yeah. So I joined that particular group on an expedition. We went up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. That was the other reason we joined, because I'd never been there, and it seemed like such a interesting place.
Mhm.
Michigan, I always think of Detroit, you think of the car industry, but the Upper Peninsula, that's interesting. So
Yeah.
so we went up there and did the whole camp out thing, and had an experience that I couldn't explain. And so do you want me just to dive into the details of it?
Oh, please do. Yeah.
All right. So this is about the second night, I think. This is 2011 or 2012. I'm sorry, 2012 when this happened. So forgive me for the memory fading a little bit, because I'm getting older.
You know the feeling.
Yeah. And so second or third night, we're camping out, and we decided to split up. And I was part of a small group of four, my friend and I, and two guys that we met on the trip. And we went to go basically hang out on this ridge that overlooked the Manistique River. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Manistique River, which is part in like the Mead Creek State Park area, if you're familiar at all with the geography of the Upper Peninsula.
Mhm.
And we just set up a fire, had some chairs, basically just we wanted to kind of set up this scenario where we're just some random local guys enjoying a campfire, while there was others in another area that might be able to generate some activity that way. And we were sitting there enjoying the evening. It was a beautiful night. I remember being clear sky. The sun was setting over the horizon, and as the sun was setting, we started getting coyotes. We started hearing the distinct sound of coyotes howling, and you could hear them off in the distance, but they were very notably getting closer, and enough to the point that we were starting to get nervous. This pack of coyotes was like basically on top of us, and
Oh,
I'm not, I've gone hunting, obviously, as I mentioned, I was in the war zone, but uh, I'm not real interested in tussling with a bunch of wild coyotes. I don't know if they do anything, but anyway, I was just like, we were all getting a little anxious. So we thought, well, let's begin the hike back to where we had come from, which was about a 2-mile journey. It wasn't exactly like next, a stone's throw away.
mhm.
So we knew we had a little bit of a walk, and plus it was getting dark, and we were in an area we weren't all that familiar. So we journeyed down the road. It was just this winding road. I think it's actually called the River Road. I mean, it was literally just followed the river all the way back to the main campground. And as we were walking, one of the guys heard, it sounded like something near us was something was moving in amidst our presence.
Mhm.
Kept hearing footsteps, hearing things getting crunched, like the typical sounds that of someone following you. And eventually we kind of got to the point that we discovered this thing was mimicking us. As we made noise, or as we walked, and the ways we walked, it would almost shadow us and repeat us. Um, and to just be sure we weren't hearing our own echo, one of the guys had this idea of calling out a quiet cadence. A bunch of us, among the four of us, I think three of us are prior military. And so we did like a quiet cadence where we kind of came on the same step, and we called out where we would come to a halt effectively. And that was when we figured out there really was something following us, because when we all came down on the same foot, whatever was following us stumbled. We heard it stumble, like we caught it off guard. And so that really kind of raised the hairs on the back of our necks, as you might expect. All of us were like, wow, like this isn't in our head. We're not just imagining sounds. We're not, envisioning Bigfoot because we're on this Bigfoot trip. Like, something's really out there. And in our minds, all of us kind of estimated something like 50 yards away from us, something like that, about a half a football field away from us. So that, of course, made us anxious. But I'm always a skeptic, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I come to everything very skeptically. I came to this whole experience, this whole trip, like kind of with a skeptic's mind. I thought it'd be fun, but it's all just a bunch of, just silliness. Again, I didn't have any education in this at all. So I'm thinking there's somebody either local, like a local person, or somebody who's part of our group who's like conning us, like someone's trying to mess with us, either try to get us to make up a story that we had experienced, or that there was some sort of local who was just trying to poke fun at the fact there was a Bigfoot group in the area. So with that in mind, I actually stopped and turned around and approached. I went into the tree line and approached whatever the sound was, and I said, "Hey, man." I mean, my literal words were, "Hey, man, you're liable to get shot. Some of us are carrying." And as soon as I spoke those words, something walked from behind a tree and walked in a clearing. Again, remember that it's dark. It's getting dark. Walked in a clearing from one tree to another that was larger, darker, and more otherworldly than anything I've ever experienced in my life. And again, having been to the war zone, having had hunting experience, I'm not necessarily an outdoorsman, but just having at least not being skittish in the night, that kind of personality. What I saw with my eyes scared me enough that I leapt back. I feel like I jumped to the other side of the road and I took off like a child. I couldn't believe what my eyes had just seen. We caught up with some of the other guys, took off with me, and we caught up with our group, some of the leaders of our group, and said, "Hey, there's something out there." We just, and after we shared our story, there are multiple other people who said, "We've been hearing sounds, we've been hearing whoops, we've been hearing knocks, things like that. There's clearly activity going on in the area, and we think you might have been part of it." There was another group at the same time that we had our experience. This information came afterwards. There was another group sitting on the other side of the river. Remember, this road we're walking down follows the river, and from our vantage point, we're on the right side of the river, and on the left side there was another group kind of hanging out in that area. And about the same time, they shared with us, I think it was the next morning, shared with us that they had heard something thrashing through the water and coming up out of the river. Like, they thought it was a bear or something. It was a large object, large being of some kind, and it came crashing through the river and up into the woods that direction. And when we drew it out on a map, it genuinely made sense. Like, it was almost like when I confronted it, it decided the jig was up, and it made a beeline for the river from where we were. Took like a 90-degree turn and ran across the river from there. But so that, I mean, compared to some of the guests you've had in the past, I know that this story is like, it's so lame.
No, oh my goodness, no, because
but it changed my life.
Yes.
Yeah, it changed my life, because I went from being almost laughing at this whole phenomenon, thinking this is just kind of a silly little Americana mythology. I get to see how, like, other people in the world think and how they operate, and just I don't know, a study of humanity almost. Like, I just kind of wanted to experience what folks who go on these kinds of trips are like, And next thing I know, I became one of them. I never planned this. And I'll tell you this much, when people question it, and they ask me, is this a real story? Are you just trying to, I don't know, get famous or something with the story? I said, guys, like, it's costs me so much more than I can explain. Just for a quick example, like, I've run for public office in the past. I've been involved in the local politics in the Pittsburgh area, where I live. And when people find out that my story was featured on a certain Bigfoot show on Animal Planet, it immediately comes up in the political discourse. Like, are we sure we want to vote for this guy? So and not to mention my ministry, everything I've done, it has cost me more than it has ever benefited me at all to share this story. And yet, as we were talking before the show started, one of my deep core convictions is that God created us and grants us experiences. He gives us interests. He gives us passions, talents, gifts, whatever, however you want to call them. He gives us all these things in order to be his hands and feet in the world in our own unique way. And to deny any aspect of my story, my experience, what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've been through, and not leverage it for purposes of just being honest and sharing and saying, hey, I don't know what this means. I don't know what it was. I don't have proof. I don't have a body in a bag to show you. But I have a story. I think to deny any of that is to deny what God's called me to do.
Yes.
And so it's one of the reasons why I jumped at the opportunity to be part of your show, is just like, hey, it's just a matter of fact part of my life.
Oh, thank you. And it's I'm so glad that you did. And I know that other people who are still working, they have careers, they don't want to share, on the most part, their experiences. They want to keep it private. And, it's hard to share it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the ridicule comes up, and then the cost of possible, your campaign, and getting into what was it, town council?
Yeah, I was president of our borough council. Yeah. I ran for the state house a couple of times too, and those were the ones where it mostly came up. Someone at the state level finds out. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's just part of my story, man. Like, I don't know what you want me to do about it.
It's part of life. It's part of your experiences, and it's helped to form you in, from that time forward in a different direction. And you've been able to touch more people because of that, because of your experience. And that's the way that I feel also, that, this helps other people. By your sharing it, people are more willing to come out and talk about their experience, that, they're afraid of, oh, okay, I didn't have such a real dramatic experience. Nobody wants to hear it. And I'm sorry, but no, I want to hear it.
Yeah. It's all part of the continuum of this phenomenon,
It really is, because there's details. It's, I tell everyone, it's all data. Every single little tidbit, you caught it off guard. With that little misstep. And it's data. It's something to remember and to note.
It's fascinating because, like I said, at the time, I had some interest in the topic, but I wasn't reading on it. But after it happened, of course, I bought books. I was watching YouTube videos, everything. I remember my wife and I went. I just come back. I said I'd come back from my deployment, and my wife and I wanted to do like a little all-inclusive resort kind of thing, kind of like a second honeymoon, because I'm home from the war, And I'm here. I'm on this pristine beach, this all-inclusive resort, getting cocktails served to me, and I'm reading a Bigfoot book. Because I just can't get this experience out of my mind. I can't shake what just happened. And I started attending some conferences and making friends in the Bigfoot community,
Mhm.
and some of that went in a direction I didn't anticipate. But anyway, that it was just it definitely, whatever happened, whatever that thing was, and like I said, it was dark, but I clearly saw something large. And we went back and measured, did the whole, the whole research thing. Went
Yes.
back, did got almost, precisely where we were. We could see the trees that it walked between, all that kind of stuff, and we were able to measure like something like 8.5 feet tall. And of course, when I went on the show, they did the whole like, you know, the larger individual on the show,
Yes.
played the part, and
Yeah.
it
You
was.
can name names, if you want to,
Oh,
or
I don't want to. Yeah, I didn't want to violate any type of internal court, but yeah, like Bobo did the whole thing, and
yeah.
it was interesting. We certainly seemed to have nailed down that it was certainly a large bipedal entity,
Mhm.
and I don't know what you could describe, what it could have been other than what we obviously describe as Bigfoot or Sasquatch,
Right.
and like I said, I don't even have a blurry picture to share with the world. I don't have a blob squatch picture. All I have is 4 guys who all shared this experience. I who had the clearest view of this thing,
Yes.
and the interesting part was one of the reasons I think they wanted us on the show, or they wanted all of us on the show. I ended up being the only one who went, unfortunately. It was because all of us came from like a professional background. I being a pastor and chaplain,
Mhm.
and having just come home from the war. My friend who was with us is a physical therapist, medical doctor. One of the guys is, I believe, a teacher. Another one, police officer. So it was like it wasn't like, not that it matters. I mean, everyone's got their own experience and perspective, but we all had different things that we analyzed, and the kind of credibility that we brought to the conversation was particularly interesting. It would, like I said, as it has cost me, it cost us all to share the story and to be honest about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bet, especially, the teacher and the physical therapist
Yeah.
and the police officer,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
yourself.
So there's definite like risk,
Yeah.
involved, and just add some credibility, I guess,
Yeah.
to
Then
what
the
happened.
fun thing is that, like you said, you each bring your own experience and perspective
Hmm.
into what you saw.
Yeah.
And do you recall what the others said about what their perspective was?
Yeah, see, it seemed like I was the only one who got a clear view of what I saw passing from one tree to another.
Yeah.
I hate that part of the story, but it's part of the story, is it? And but all I wasn't even the first one who heard the sounds of it.
Mhm.
I have terrible hearing. In fact, I normally wear hearing aids. Part of my background in the military, I was in the Air Force. I spent a lot of time around engines and jet sounds and mortars going off. So my hearing isn't all that great. And so it took one of them pointing out, that's an unusual sound. What is that? It sounds like something's following us, for me to pick up on it. So their observations cued me in to, oh yeah, there's something here. And but like I said, in terms of seeing it, the other 3 guys were like, I didn't see it, but I certainly saw your reaction to what you saw.
Okay. Okay.
And they also took note. One of the things we took note of was after I had said, you're about to get shot for following us, and then kind of freaked out when I saw something step out. We never heard another thing following us, and actually the forest went dead silent. That was another thing that was observed.
Yeah.
There was like this notable silence, not even like the sound of, I don't remember the sound of crickets, like you normally hear in the woods, or birds. Whereas the forest was active prior to
Mhm.
that. Something changed tangibly
Yep.
around us.
Yeah. That's how you know that they're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything goes
Yeah.
silent.
And the one thing I noticed, I mentioned, all of a sudden reading and studying and learning about this phenomenon. One of the things that really like made the hair stand up on the back of my neck was reading other people's accounts of this phenomenon of being mimicked, of being or stalked in the forest, or
Yeah.
shadowed, like almost like they're kind of paralleling you as you walk. They're kind of there's a long history of that phenomenon happening, and I didn't even know that existed. Like I had no background in that knowledge, and that's when I was like, wow. Like, so this is again as part of my desire to share the story, as you were saying, as we were both talking about, adding to the ongoing research, because this story just adds to that evidence of this is a phenomenon. This is something they do, and it just contributes to that overarching base of knowledge.
Oh, it does, absolutely. And your grand introduction was what you feared and found the most creepy was yep.
It's happening. Yeah, it's happening. Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you personally think that they are?
That was a great question, right? And I'll be honest with you, I've listened to, it's coming from a pastoral background, someone who has many years of studying theology, scripture. I've always been interested in the biblical perspective of this conversation, and I come down on two things that are probably the biggest kind of angle I take on this whole conversation. I'm always about keeping it simple. So simplest explanation is the most likely explanation, and so I know that there's a lot of discussion about is this Nephilim kind of thing happening, and I don't know. I can't obviously until perhaps not until Jesus returns will we ever actually know the full details. But one of the things that I tend to lean on is more of a biological perspective on it. It is just a part of God's creation that we are not fully understanding yet. I think if you look at the vastness of the evidence, there's certainly something there. I deeply appreciate the scientific perspective. Meldrum and even like Jane Goodall and other people who've mentioned like the evidence is pretty solid that there's something happening. And I think it was Meldrum who constantly points out the idea of even if you take it down, if you discount all the misidentifications, you take away the clear hoaxes, the false claims, there's still a core nugget of evidence of both anecdotal and physical evidence that suggests there's a biological being deep within the North American forest, the woods, the mountains, that have a set certain number of traits. They follow a certain number of patterns. They certainly seem to have a class among themselves. Like it's not just random things happening all over the world. It's certainly following patterns. So the evidence suggests there's certainly something there biologically. I don't personally subscribe, or at least I'm willing to consider the possibility of the whole Nephilim thing. I'm willing to consider the whole. There's discussions of is there some sort of demonic thing going on, or some sort of manifestation of that? I don't know. The portal thing. Are they extraterrestrial? I mean, there's so many directions this stuff goes.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me personally, just based on my personal experience and what I've researched and what I've experienced, I go with the simplest explanation. It's a biological being, a great ape of some kind, a humanoid great ape, that we just don't have at least a formal documentation of. And I said that there was a second thing I wanted to talk about, and the second thing is completely just popped out of my head. I'm sure it'll come back to me, but the primary thing is that I lean on it being a biological in nature, and and clearly to me that's what it is. It's but I think that there's certainly this is the second thing. There's certainly a spiritual aspect to that, and that's simply to humble ourselves, to acknowledge that we don't have a full understanding of the universe, and I'm willing to accept that beyond just that biological aspect of
Mm-hmm.
This is an animal of some kind,
Right.
that we haven't, or at least science hasn't formally documented and listed as active and alive. So in that regard, I mean, like, I'm open to the discussion, of, whatever, I am not God. I did not create this world. I'm not the author of the universe. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
the sustainer of the universe. And the more we learn about the universe, the greater the mystery it seems to me.
Yeah.
So whatever these things are, I'm willing to humble myself and say, I don't know. Because anytime in history, anytime you read history, and specifically about when it comes to faith and science and where they overlap, and people always just find themselves, just embarrass themselves ultimately, because they act like they're the forebearers of all knowledge. They know everything there is to know about the universe, and then all of a sudden, oh look, we discovered gravity. Or oh, suddenly the sun is at the center of the universe, or center of our solar system, and not the Earth. Like, anytime we pretend like we have it all figured out, and this is my biggest conflict with people, it tends to be just on both sides, whether you're a skeptic or you are a knower. As I know that there's something out there. I jokingly tell people I'm not a believer. I know there's something there. But on both sides of the spectrum, I think there's a need for humility, to say, all right, here's where I am on this argument, on this discussion, but clearly I don't have all the answers. If I did, I probably would be pulling in a totally different paycheck than I am.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Right?
All of us.
Right? So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, what I think they are, but personally at this point, I lean on that biological aspect of it. Yeah.
Now, do you think that the government knows of their existence and is hiding their knowledge or deliberately covering it up? Well,
Yeah,
what
I
do you
mean, there's
think?
certainly. I mean, I'm guessing. I'm assuming a lot of where I lean politically, because I end up posting a lot about it. But I try to be better. But having
Go
been
for
in
it.
the government, having worked in the government at least at a military level, there's certainly secrets, and there's certainly things they will tell you what they want you to know when
Mhm.
they want you to know it. And anytime that they act like, basically, I always take what they say with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like the UFO or UAP discussion, or this discussion, I think the reality is that they're only giving us enough information to appease the masses, because they got to keep getting voted into office. They got, and the bureaucrats have to keep their jobs. Those are, not necessarily elected into their jobs, but have to keep the funding coming for their jobs. Are only going to let us know what they want us to know when they want us to know it. And so I assume, based on the fact that I've interacted with and I've listened to park rangers, I've heard from military personnel who've worked on remote military bases, that they know that there's things out there that they just won't acknowledge.
Yep. Tracy agrees with you. She says,
Tracy's right on, right? Huberman's a good way of describing it.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know how you can have any experience with our government and not come away from it skeptical, at the very least. That the hope that they're as honest and transparent as you would like them to be is quickly destroyed.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now you've spoken with park rangers,
Oh yeah.
and have they been open with you about things?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's been trying to think. A couple times I went to the Ohio Bigfoot conference, and there was a guy who went to the Salt Fork one.
Oh, yeah.
I've talked to him at least once, and he's just outright like, yeah, there's things here, and he talked about them like, maybe like Salt Fork and like part of Ohio being on like the migration pathway or something to that effect. I remember that whole conversation quite clearly.
Mhm.
There's and then of course when I was an interesting note, one of the big groups that I worked with in the military was the security forces. I tended to gravitate towards the cops in the Air Force. I like those guys.
Mhm.
And girls, those men and women, and there's been more than a few of those guys that have shared some stories of working outside the wire around an Air Force base, and something's throwing rocks at them or something, and having sightings of various kinds. So, and then they come back and report it, and because they're of course thinking it's a security threat, and they're like, oh, that's just we know what that is, and we don't deal with that, or we don't talk about that openly. So that's been eye-opening as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I've heard from others on, especially about military bases, how active they are in actuality, and how that's covered up,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But again, regarding the park rangers, yeah, the one out at especially the wildlife biologist out there at Salt Fork State Park. I've spoken with him a number of times, and yeah, he's a great guy, very open about it.
Absolutely.
But Salt Fork is an anomaly. The guys there, nowhere else have I found, especially park rangers, being open about it. The only park ranger, well, can't really say park ranger, whatever the Canadian equivalent is.
Like a Mountie maybe or something, or
No, she's a friend of mine. She's part of their, I guess, forestry service.
okay.
And she has had a number of Bigfoot and other cryptids
Yeah.
experiences.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she appeared anonymously on a couple of podcasts. Her face wasn't showing, and she went by a different name. But the following morning, she was called into the office and kind of given a chewing out. And but
Yeah, it doesn't
eventually
surprise me.
she was demoted eventually, and she had to leave.
Yeah.
But she always said that whenever you go to parks and things like that, you really don't want to talk to the park rangers. They're not going to talk to you. She said, go to the maintenance guys.
Oh.
Go to the guys who pick up the garbage and clean the roads.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Well, I've been outside of the Bigfoot community now for a little bit. I haven't really been too active for a variety of reasons, but
Yeah.
I don't know, for some reason, and sometimes I just kind of notice the way the winds shift in life, and you kind of sense that maybe God is like, pushing different doors open, or pushing, guiding you in certain ways. And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I've had so many people wanting to know about my story, about hearing the story again. I'm like, man, it's like 12, 13 years old at this point. Like, it's old hat. Just coming out of the woodwork, people I work with, or people that I interact with at church or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, something that I've been kind of slowly reintroducing into my life this past year or two. Has been like, let's get back out into the woods again. Let's because when I came home from that trip and kind of settled in, did all this research, I got really involved with the BFRO. I got signed up with them to be an investigator, researcher. I went on a couple of local, I'm in like I said, the Pittsburgh area. I went down to Washington, PA for a couple of investigations. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I have an obsessive personality. And if I find if something tickles my interests, like, I need to understand it 110%. I
Yes.
cannot be I cannot be a ignorant to whatever topic it is that I'm talking about or wanting to have an interest in. I need to know all about it. And so I was dive in head first kind of guy, I want to know this thing. And so I went all in. But one of the things I ran into is just the Bigfoot community really kind of, there was a lot of cult of personality, involved in the whole thing. And the more you kind of got involved, the more it seemed like you were pushed to the side because
Yep.
and this started forcing me to question my own experience. Like maybe, maybe this was all made up in my head because like, is there a profit motive? Is someone profiting off of what I experienced? You come to find out there's certainly people involved in the community that are like seeing it as their livelihood. They're trying to get rich off of it in some ways. But then I just found just some toxic characters that really discouraged me. And I wish that wasn't the case, because one of the things that made me think about was that how many people are having experiences who might say, hey, I want to share what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they run into some of these people and for what, they're like, nah, I'm not dealing with this. Like, I'm not getting involved. Not dealing with you and if you're an example of how this whole community is. So one of the things I love about you're doing, just having, reading, watching some of your podcasts and being part of the Facebook group, is that you genuinely come to it from a servant-hearted mentality. Like, you just want to grow this information. I know you do speaking engagements and things like that, and it's out of a genuine love for it. And so I like something that I've just grown to appreciate about you and what you do is just you do it for the right reasons and you do it the right way. And
Thank you.
So I want to give you kudos for that. But it's just if anything, me telling the story now and getting back, maybe kind of sort of re-engaging in the Bigfoot world, is trying to take back some of that territory for good, genuine people who aren't leading this community into, I don't know, some sort of a toxic mess. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it was a discouragement to me when I was first involved.
Yeah.
And first going to conferences, first checking out, some of these groups.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these groups were led by some pretty interesting characters. We'll leave it at
that. I agree, absolutely. I know that, I had experiences been having them for quite a long time, and then I discovered by chance that, hey, there's a TV show on. And they're talking about things. So, and then I discovered, hey, there's actually groups online talking about this. And so I went out and explored, the online community and ran into some real off the wall people.
Yeah.
And some real snobbish people.
Yes.
And but then I discovered very few people who were out there to genuinely help and to help answer questions, the best that they could, and to confirm, what I was learning myself. And so I try to pass that along that, hey, I'm not going to, just say, oh, okay, no, you're below me, you're beneath me, I'm not going to answer your question. You're not worth it.
Yeah.
No, I want to help people, because people come into this a lot of times after a traumatic experience, and they want help. They need help. They suffer from PTSD sometimes.
That's very true.
So, you got to help.
Yeah. And maybe it's because I come from it from a pastoral perspective, but I think you hit the nail on the head that, just think about the weight on people's shoulders. They had this experience. They're seeing something that shouldn't exist, or at least sensing that something doesn't exist is around them, in some way, shape, or form. The idea of calling the quote unquote authorities, that's just going to put you on a fast track to crazy land, right? You're just the local crazy person. and so the opportunity exists to be the courier of grace to someone who just needs to share their story and can confirm or guide other people in the telling of their story and the researching of their story, of their experience. And here I remember when I first came home from this trip and had this experience, I went to a local Pennsylvania group. I don't need to bother saying that who it was or who it was led by, but and I remember I went there and I told the story, and the guy who was leading it, the individual leading it, told me that's not worth telling. I remember him telling me that, like, it's not you don't have enough evidence, you don't have enough, just forget about it, or no one's going to care about you, and it was all about the little fiefdom that he had built up, about how he has the experiences, he has the people, he has the knowledge, and it's almost like it was like a cult, like the cult of personality was the phrase I used specifically because it was very cultish. And I was just like, man, like, this is awful. And it just turned me off. And I just, for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is I had children and had, a lot of personal responsibilities to juggle at the same time. But that was, if you want to grow the database and you want to grow the community, you need good people, to be part of it and to encourage and to guide and to help people who are suffering from that PTSD, wondering how and where they're going to share their story, and is anyone going to believe them? If I one day on my gravestone it says pastor to the Bigfoot community, fine. I'm happy that God calling in my life. I don't know, but like,
you never know.
Just let people know that they're not alone, and that we believe you, and we're willing to affirm anything that you want to share. So that I absolutely agree with that. Every possible encounter counts. It needs to be heard.
Absolutely.
And again, if for no other reason other than just to bring it to the light, truth grows in light, lies grow in darkness, and that's, do we want to be people of the light or the darkness? It's a simple choice.
I think that I know that one thing, who knows where, we're both people of faith, and I think that where God leads us, he'll get us there one way or the other. And, if that's where he wants you to go, to be the Bigfoot chaplain, Bigfoot witness.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that literally came up in the spur of the moment as I was talking. Like, if that's the way people remember me, so be it. I got so turned off by what was going on before. Like I said, I being someone who had an experience, someone who definitely doesn't have a profit motive, just wants to tell my story. I got turned off by it. I'm like, I walked away. And how many other people are having that same experience?
Absolutely, yeah. Old Line Cryptids, he has a excellent podcast too.
Oh, okay.
And he wants you on there, so
all right, well,
I'll put you in touch with each other.
Sounds good. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a crazy world we live in, and it's, what's funny to me is thinking about all of the stuff that we're talking about here. Like, there's the skeptical world out there, like, oh, these are a bunch of crazies. But really some of the crazies are the ones who claim to be on our side, but they're just like out of their mind with their lunacy, I guess.
Does anyone have any questions out there? If not, I'll just continue. And okay, have you looked into or researched the possible, I don't know, they call it Nephilim connection, but I think people are calling it Nephilim just because that's the most familiar term that they have for something not angel, well,
Yeah.
not angelic, but in that realm.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly considered the argument for it. I mean, we're talking about the whole Genesis 6 thing, the fallen angels, interbreeding with human women, and
Mhm.
again, I'm open to it. I'm certainly not going to say no, because again, it goes against my my previous statement of just humbling myself and being willing to,
Right.
pull whatever string comes about. But I personally don't jump on that thinking that's the answer, because let me say this, like, I don't think it has to be named in scripture for it to exist. For instance, like, the giraffe is not described in the Bible, right? Like, it's one of, but we know it's one of God's creations, right? It's an animal that God created, and
Mhm.
but it's not specifically mentioned. So why does Bigfoot or Sasquatch have to be specifically mentioned? Could it be this whole descendant of the Nephilim thing? Maybe, possibly. I don't know. But at the same time, I would need to see. I don't know. God would have to give me that answer, like, in a very clear way, before I ascribe anything as specifically in that spiritual manifestation.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing with, like, and forgive me, if anyone disagrees with me on this, but, like, when it comes to, like, demonic things, it comes to, like, demon possessions or this idea of exorcisms and stuff like that, I certainly believe it happens. It happens in scripture. We see it in scripture. Oftentimes what we see happening with people is oftentimes a mental health issue, but there's certainly a spiritual aspect to it. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong.
Right.
But I'm not necessarily, casting out demons, every time I interact with somebody who has a mental health crisis.
Yes.
So all that to say, like, there's certainly a spiritual component to everything. I think every aspect under the sun,
Yeah.
our lives are spiritual. We are spiritual beings, whether you acknowledge it or not.
Mhm.
You're created by a divine being, and you're embedded with his likeness
Mhm.
in your inherent creation. Whether you acknowledge that or not, that is where God gives you free will to wrestle with that,
Yeah.
and to come to him. I always get into those discussions about free will versus God's sovereignty and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, well, to me, the definition of love requires a free will choice of some level, at least.
Yes.
My wife isn't just created to love me; she chooses to, and that's it has to be a choice. I have to choose to love my wife and to love my children. But getting back to the point, I think there's certainly spiritual aspects to this phenomenon, just as there is in every experience we have in the world.
Mhm.
But I'm not personally able to say, yeah, this is most certainly a Nephilim sort of descendant or
Mhm.
connected to the Genesis 6 story.
Mhm.
I think it'd be cool. There's certainly like aspects to it that intrigue me. Like I said, I'm
Mhm.
willing to consider it, but I always try to keep it simple, stupid. And when I say stupid, I'm talking to myself. Just keep it simple.
Okay, Tracy, that was another gentleman. His name, I won't tell his full name because he needed to be anonymous, but his first name is Brian, and that was a gentleman, the Bible teacher, who was on in February.
I enjoyed that show too. I listened to you. You sent me the link to that one
Yeah.
specifically, and uh, I definitely don't disagree. I think I'm open to
Hmm.
wherever the chips fall. Like, I'm willing to accept as gospel truth. I just, as I said, just for my personal philosophy, just go for the simplest explanation.
Right.
And I think of it like, the great apes weren't discovered until the early 1900s.
Hmm.
And for the entire time up until that point, they were nothing but tribal folklore.
Yeah.
These tribes had these stories about the great ape, and people shrugged them off like they were just making things up, or it's just something from their past, until all of a sudden lo and behold, these things have been here the whole time.
Yeah.
The idea, again, going back to what I was saying before, the idea that we have any ability to say we know everything that exists in our even our own backyard is a level of what's the word I'm looking for? Not, the opposite of humility. It's just it's
Arrogance.
area. Thank you. The brain doesn't work like it used to as I get older here, but yeah, level of arrogance that I'm not willing to ascribe to. You have to maintain that sense of humility.
You do.
That and when it comes to like this topic in particular, that's one of the things that really affirmed my experience was acknowledging I'm not sure what the idea of them being the first people to the beginning story of the Tree of Knowledge. I'd love to hear more about that. I'm not sure what the comment is suggesting, but I'd love to explore that some more.
Okay, we have technology, and they live in the elements in the.
Yeah. Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. I mean, who's the more civilized one, right? Who's the smarter creature here? We're killing ourselves, destroying ourselves with our own technology.
Yeah.
And then there's a race or a species of beings living peacefully, completely separate from our existence, completely interdependent with the world around them. There's certainly truth to that.
It's going beyond what is written in scripture.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So anyway, what I was saying is just keeping that sense of humility about what's even in our own backyard is essential. And going back to the idea of, as I was saying, that something that affirmed my experience was just listening to and reading about how many ancient tribes came up around us, whereas we're the science-minded people, the people who are educated, and yet all these folks who are here for eons before us, all having the same creatures drawn in their art and part of their ancient totem poles and just part of their traditions that have long pre-existed us. It's foolishness for us to say no, none of that's real. Just like the great apes. I think it's the same exact thing playing out, and it's just a matter of time, in my view.
It really is. Eventually, the government. Well, who knows? And really, who cares if the government actually acknowledges them? I truly don't care if they do or not. My more of a concern to me is if people learn more about them and it becomes more of a common knowledge, and science, traditional mainstream science may not acknowledge them either, along with government, for whatever reason that it is, that they're not. It's more of a let people be educated about them.
Yeah, and I think there's also something to the reality of when something gets acknowledged, it also has a tendency of getting destroyed, and so there's that aspect to it as well. So as you were talking just then, I was thinking, is it not being acknowledged because there's certain powers that be that don't want it to be bothered, or are we wishing for the wrong thing, even asking for it to be acknowledged and then finding out that, well, look what we did, we just wiped it out. I wish, one of the things I often tell my kids, I wish I was able to see a Tasmanian tiger, with my own eyes, and here I've had some kind of experience where I saw something with my own eyes that maybe if it was acknowledged and put on everyone's radar as being real, next thing you know, there's, hunts for its pelt, so to speak,
Yeah.
going on that causes a decimation of a community we don't want to be decimated. So
Right.
I think it's a double-edged sword,
It truly is. Yeah. Government tends to want to regulate.
Right. How are they going to tax it?
Yes. Yeah, they'll either confine it to reservations, or think they can confine Bigfoot to reservations, or not really reservations, but game lands.
Right.
But their territory is literally everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can't confine them.
Right. Yeah. It's it's, you can't confine it, and you could potentially destroy it, by trying to.
Right.
Yeah. So there's certain.
Going back to the Nephilim, and like I said, it's I think that term is just placed on them because that's the more common term.
Sure.
Seen in Genesis 6. There's over 100 different types of angels.
Right.
And and I'm not hardly going to name them all because I don't know the names of all of them.
Right.
I'm not a Hebrew scholar.
Right.
But you have the angels, the archangels, the Nephilim, the seraphim, and the cherubim, and beyond that, I don't know. But
no, absolutely. It can, there's the list can go on and on.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think there's the comment over here about it going beyond what is written in scriptures is true. Like it could be certainly connected. But we can't project onto scripture. One of the things in my faith tradition, I come from we call ourselves the Independent Christian Church movement, and one of the things that we argue for is unity on all the essentials of scripture. So if scripture speaks, then we speak. If it doesn't, then we allow for liberty on whatever it is that your opinion is on that matter. Or if it's, even muddled, we'll allow for liberty on it. But, scripture clearly doesn't say this is what this being is, that's wandering around North American forests, let alone, the Yeti or other creatures in other continents. So the idea that we can ascribe to it a most definitive biblical identity, I think is, borders on arrogance, and it borders on, making some big leaps of judgment. But at the same time, it's certainly interesting, and there's certainly room for it. One of my kids are oftentimes interested in like the what the heck, like Nessie and things like that, and we talk about how like, oh, there's certainly in the Bible stories about sea monsters. I mean, that's we see that over and over again as well. Is that what that is? I don't know. It could be. It could also just be another undocumented creature that we haven't recorded yet. I tend to come from a younger Earth perspective in terms of creation and everything. Is that for all as I know, it's a surviving dinosaur. And that's what we might see being described in scripture. But again, making these leaps of that's definitely what it is, I try to be careful with, just because I don't. As soon as I say that and I'm proven wrong, there goes my judgment. There goes my character. And
we don't know. It could be anything, and we're ascribing. We hear about the some paranormal, possible paranormal abilities. Like mind speak, and then there's the orbs and portals, etc. And who knows?
Yeah, so all those stories, like I said, I want to hear them, and I want to keep them as part of the conversation.
Right.
It just hasn't been mine yet. It hasn't
Yeah.
been what I experienced personally. And so again, I'm not going to stand in judgment and be like, oh, that can't be real. That's
Yeah.
made up. That's fake. I would never say it because I've been the receiver of that, you know, and
Yes.
I think we all have. Yeah, if you're part of this community, you've received that. And so I would be the last person to say that to anybody. I want to see it and experience personally before I make any type of personal leap in that regard.
Yes.
But I do find the orbs and the portal conversation fascinating. The even just like the eye shine kind of thing, I think is a fascinating phenomenon.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't normally have something like eye shine tends to be something that I understand predators do that,
Right.
not like anything bipedal or of that family is unusual.
Yeah.
And on this same trip that we were part of way back in 2011, we had guys who were claiming eye shine and stuff, and I I didn't see it, but I think it's fascinating to me that exists, and again, it's all part of that database. It's all part of the conversation, and maintaining that humble posture of, okay, that's what you saw, that's what you experienced.
Yeah.
Let's hear more about it, rather than discouraging people and sending them away. Someone's done, but
Now, you said you had done some witness interviews also, or investigations.
yeah,
Into
there was
that
a family in Washington, PA. This was oh gosh, I'd have to go back to my notes. Back in 2014, I want to say 2015, somewhere in that time frame. There was a family who owned a farm down in Washington, PA, that had animals disappearing, and they also, what was of particular interest is that they had audio recordings of howls and growls and things like that. And so I was asked to go, collect this evidence basically. And so I was able to collect it, transfer it. We had a guy that I met in my trip to Michigan, actually, who was very interested in the audio side of things. He was it was of a particular interest to him, and he was able to draw so much data off of that, and compare it to some other reported Sasquatch, what am I saying? Sasquatch audio recordings, and found such similarities. It was fascinating. But this family had, it was a very similar experience in that, as we were talking, they were just basically shamed into never talking about it. They had pets that were disappearing. They had dogs that went off into the woods, never came back, which was highly unusual. They had, I want to say, a cow or two, being slaughtered, and it was a big deal. But the golden nugget, so to speak, was this tape that they compiled all of these sounds on with these stories and photographs of footprints and things like that. It was a fascinating place. I used to actually work in the Washington area, and every now and then I would intentionally just kind of like go back towards their property and just kind of camp out, during work, during the day. I wasn't necessarily sleeping out in the in the woods there, but just like, wow. And it was a squatchy place. If you want to describe a place as squatchy, it was in this this valley, this river running through it, and you can just see why, if anything did live out here, and of the size and scale that we're talking about, it would make sense. And so that was a really interesting experience, and I found a lot of value in. It was the son who the dad had never, the patriarch of the family never wanted to talk about it. Like, he was like, that we're going to leave this. No one's going to believe us. We'll put us on, the fast track to Kooky Town in the community. Don't want to bring any light to it. And it was the son, after, of course, like, at the time, finding Bigfoot and monster quest shows like that are popular. he just basically came forward and said, I've got this, and I got these stories. We walked through the woods together. He was showing me where they found like animal carcasses from their, animals that were taken and they discovered later.
Interesting.
It was a fascinating story. But yeah, I felt like I had I felt like I had the holy grail for a little bit there, because the BFRO wanted wanted that audio tape. They wanted the recording so badly, and to get that I had to. It was like a micro cassette.
Yes.
And so I had to figure out a way to transfer it to make it an MP3, and
Oh.
doing all this stuff, trying to delicately,
Yeah.
be the courier.
Right.
But it was interesting. So I had a couple of experiences like that. And yeah, I mean, it was all about the same time my daughter was being born, my firstborn child. And so like priorities started to shift eventually too. So
Yes. Yeah.
I can't be going on these random Saturday expeditions on my own,
Yep.
diving into this like I'm some scientist here. Here I'm trying to raise a family. I think I was running a business at the time, and lead a church. I have a background in starting businesses, and so I had a lot on my plate. And eventually, I just kind of had to step away from that particular area.
Now, it's such a shame that they don't share the BFRO on their database. They don't share all the reports.
Yeah.
And I think that's the worst thing that they could do.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually gone back in the past and looked for like that report that I did, because my name was attached to it too, and it's not there. I can't find it. At least not anything. I think there was at one point a blurb about it, but there was certainly no like clips, or you can
no details.
Yeah, play this audio.
Right. Yeah, because like you said, you were talking about how they had discovered the carcasses.
Yeah.
And you saw the carcasses yourself?
No. This is these are like stories from when the son was younger, and he went out with his dad looking for the family dog, or looking for the cow that went missing from the from the herd, and just stories of him remembering this is where it was. It was laying right here, and it was like incredibly unusual. Like there's very few things out here that would do this. Even has the capability of doing this. But it's it was just interesting, to kind of be out in the field, so to speak. That was, I only had a few experiences like it. But it was all part of my personal desperate need to just learn more about the subject, because I had just had this experience that I couldn't explain, and so I needed to find other people who had something else that they couldn't explain, to feel like I belonged to something bigger than myself.
Right.
And like I said, some of the groups that I was mingling with were not appealing to me for a variety of reasons, and so I was like basically working from my own devices to explore other people who are very new, very fresh to this, wanting to share their story. And I found a lot of affirmation in that, going that route.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, we have a couple of I don't know, some weird people in the
okay.
They're not they're not making derogatory comments. They're just making some strange.
Okay. Well, I didn't even notice. I'm too focused on you and talking, and I keep looking over, like, oh yeah, there's comments there.
Yes. Yeah. Jerry, I'm going to have to maybe make you a mod sometime. I know Jerry, he's a mod, but I don't know where he's at. But yeah, I had to. Oh, okay. Thank you, Jerry. All right. Okay, wait a minute here. Okay. Yeah, Jeff is a moderator, so yeah, hopefully Jeff comes back. And I'll keep an eye on the comments too. Sorry about
That's
that.
okay. That's all right.
Just trying to keep the weirdos. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
We appreciate you, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if anything, my primary message and you know, my reason for wanting to just, you know, take this opportunity to share was just to encourage others to do the same, to encourage people to come out of their shell, not be afraid, and I think, as we were talking about before, both before the show started and a little bit during the show, that there are always going to be people who want to criticize anything you have to say or anything you do. But if you can just live honestly and just be honest to a fault about what you've seen, what you've experienced, and this is just beyond, I'm talking, of course, beyond the whole Bigfoot phenomenon, but especially in the Bigfoot community, just be who you are. I think that is, people often wrestle with, how do I know what God wants me to do with my life? What direction to take? And I think he's always telling us which pathway to take, just based on your interests and your background and your experiences, and wanting you to just be genuine about it. I mean, because what you experience is, again, Bigfoot or not, or it could be something else completely different, is going to help somebody else. And if all of us had this perspective of, I'm just going to share who I am and what I've done or where I've been, what I've gone through, especially if it's something traumatic, is going to help the next person. And of course, the goal being that we're all caring for and supporting each other through whatever it is we've gone through. And I think Bigfoot's a good example of that, because it's such a stigma. It's still a stigmatized topic, less so than it was before, but it still is. That if you're just willing to share your story and to just be real about it, regardless of what the critics have to say, all you're gonna do is help others along the path. Yeah.
No, that's for certain. That's the truth, that along the way you're going to help somebody somewhere, and yeah, just don't hide your light under a bushel.
Yeah, well, to bring it back to scripture, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not rocket science, you know, trying to figure out, you know, what God is wanting you to do with your life, if you just look at the path he has led you on the whole way.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And frankly, I think that may have been a big part of my experience. I think that it's the fact that we chose to hang out near this river, to walk this river. I think there's an obvious, even if you look at the correlations between the majority of sightings on a map, you start pinning them on a map, you see them just like any other biological animal, right? It has to be near a water source and a food source. And you really increase your likelihood of having experience closer to water. Yeah, there's so many stories I've read and listened to about people like being fishermen, you know, going out and fishing and seeing something that they thought was a bear all of a sudden stand up, you know, with a salmon in its hand or something, you know. There's a reason they're there, and you're right, it's a less likely suspicious, you know, place to be too, in terms of food source.
And that, and fishermen discovering that their line, what they call it, stringer, has been stolen,
right,
by something, and there's footprints.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Let's see.
I appreciate that, AEP. I appreciate the comment. I have a distinctive laugh. I people often know I'm in a room when I laugh. So I appreciate the compliment on that.
Yep.
I see someone.
Oh, go ahead.
I said someone asked, "What NFL team do you guys go for?" Oh boy, I don't know. Should I out myself? I'm a Steeler fan.
Of course. Hey, we're in the Pittsburgh area, so of course,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh Steelers
yeah.
have to. That's it.
Well, yeah. Even if Aaron Rodgers is our quarterback.
I know. You always go back to, hey, the coach. Can't stand the coach.
Yeah, I feel like there's some high school coaches in our area that could do a better job. But Tracy wanted to know, what episode of Finding Bigfoot was that? It was season 4, season 5. It was originally packaged with season 5, but it's called, if you Google it, it's called the Super Youper Sasquatch episode. And the only way you'll be able to recognize that it's me is by my name being on the screen. I am about 10 years younger, 13 years younger, and about 50 pounds lighter. So
No.
I have a friend. Actually, it's a patient of mine. I work in hospice care. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. I work in hospice care, and I have a patient who's very into the subject when I first met her. And so she watched the episode, and I came to meet her for the first time after watching the episode, and she was like really confused, like, you don't look the same. I'm like, no, I've got a lot less hair. I've got a little bit more baggage that I'm carrying around. And she just laughed. She's like, well, if you looked at pictures of me from 80 years ago, I could probably say the same thing. I'll never forget the look on her face, like, that's you? It's me.
Yep. I remember watching that episode and saying to myself, hey, he's from my area.
Yeah. It was I think I'm the yes, there was, Tracy. That was my uncle. I grew up in Bellevue, which is a community just north of Pittsburgh. Literally borders the north side of the city. And I always tell people that the reason I got elected to local town office was because my uncle ran the jewelry store there for decades. And so everyone knew the name. And in fact, I think most of them thought they were voting for him.
Oh.
Yeah, there was. He retired some years ago, and it's how it's always the saying, it's nice to have a doctor in the family, it's nice to have a pastor in the family. I'll tell you, it was great to have a jeweler in the family when I proposed to my wife. Saved a lot of money.
I'll bet.
Yeah, but I no longer live there, but it's that's where I'm from.
Yeah, Old Line says purple and black football team. They're in Maryland.
Yeah, well, I was just in Baltimore last week, so I was a foreigner. I was a Yinzer in Ravens country, but they were very, very welcoming. Had a lot of great conversations with Ravens fans. They I think they all felt bad for us. Like, oh, the Steelers aren't what they used to be. I'm like, no, not right now. But, yeah,
we have fans from all over.
That's good. And what's funny is that, like, on the episode of Finding Bigfoot, they list me as a Michigan Bigfoot witness, I think is how they describe me. And I have to feel like I have to point out that I'm not from Michigan. I've only been there a handful of times, and once or twice now up to the Upper Peninsula. But I'm a Yinzer through and through. Just happened to be in Michigan when it happened. That's all.
You're not a Youper, you're a Yinzer.
I'm not a Youper, I'm a Yinzer. That's better. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
But I know one thing. I've heard so much about the Upper Peninsula. I wouldn't mind going in there sometime.
It's a cool place. I don't know if it's still the same as it was when I was there. Of course, I was most recently there when we filmed the show, which that itself was 11 years ago. I think it was 2013 or 14. I think it's one of the only, in terms of size of the area. It's one of the largest areas without a Walmart. They were talking about I don't think there's a single Walmart in the entire Upper Peninsula. At least there wasn't at the time. And that just tells you how kind of like desolate it was. I mean, our cell phones didn't work. It was, I mean, people were still using landlines when we were there. It's like, I've traveled to Alaska a couple of times. Alaska was more densely populated and had more technology than the Upper Peninsula.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you should go. If you have a chance to go, it's a fascinating place. It's like going back in time. And if you love the wilderness, it's a place to go. It's just, I mean, little mom and pop shops here and there, little restaurants, like privately owned cafes and restaurants. That's what populates the entire area. It's I think almost a majority of it is like state and federal parklands and preserves. A lot of that is up there. Once you cross that, was that Mackinac Bridge, as it's called? Once you cross that bridge, it's like stepping into another world. And it's no wonder why, they had a whole bunch of Sasquatch sightings and encounters and things like that. It's prime territory for it.
Well, let's see. Yep. Had to ban somebody. And
yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Cook's Forest. Yeah, Cook's Forest definitely like that. It's comment about Cook's Forest is spot on. I've been there a number of times and love to spend more time there. I remember when I did a wedding there once. I was called to not be the pastor of this wedding. I actually ran a photography business, and I was asked to photograph this wedding, and just fell in love with the beauty of Cook's Forest. I just couldn't help take pictures of just the scenery. It's a gorgeous area. It
is. I love camping up there, and we've got a research area up in the Allegheny National Forest.
Yeah.
And just love it every time I go up there. Just haven't been able to make it up there this year yet, but
yeah,
I get phone reports.
Well, it's felt like it's been winter till, at least here, it's been winter till last week. So I haven't done much outside much until the past couple of days.
Oh, okay. Why not? You love the UP. It's been 25 years, Bruce, just like you said. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And hopefully it's not. Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, and reports all over the place.
Yeah.
I just think the Upper Peninsula itself is particularly squatchy in terms of just how it feels when you get there.
Yeah. Just for the area.
Yeah. You see, yins are through and through. Amen. My church gets sick of me calling them all Yinzers all the time. Like, how yins doing that? I play it up.
All right. More importantly, have you watched the local Pittsburgh Dad Bigfoot movies?
Oh, I've seen. I've seen one. I think. Yeah. I did see maybe the first one he did. I haven't seen anything since. But yeah, Pittsburgh Dad's a Bigfooter kind of guy, isn't he?
He is. He really doesn't believe, but the red-haired guy, he is.
Okay.
He's a believer.
Okay.
And he's the director, producer, etc.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Well, it is. Yeah, he made a sequel to it, Pittsburgh, the movie, not Pittsburgh, Bigfoot, the movie, the sequel.
Okay.
Is the name of it.
I'll have to check that out.
But they filmed both right up here near Elwood City, right outside Elwood City.
Yeah, of course. That's awesome. Yeah, and you're in a great area too. I love that area.
It is.
It's we're where we are because we bought a house next door to my in-laws. My wife's grandmother lives on the other side, and we call it the compound where we live. But if it wasn't for family, we certainly wouldn't be in Allegheny County. I mean, we'd be up there past Elwood City, or who knows, maybe even down to West Virginia by this point.
Cheaper taxes for one thing.
Well, that's it. I mean, taxes, regulations, and just the craziness of being near a major city. So yeah. A Wish for Giants was filmed in Pittsburgh area. Nice little indie film.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know the guy that wrote that.
Hmm.
He's written so many other books and filmed quite a few other movies also. Really good guy. Yeah, I highly recommend anyone to look that one up. I think it's free on Prime,
Okay.
Amazon Prime.
That sounds really familiar. I might have actually seen it. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's about a little girl, I think, who she was dying of cancer, and her wish was to see a Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah, no, I haven't seen this. Yeah, I just looked it up. That sounds fascinating. Wow. That hits a couple areas of interest there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, let's see here. Make sure I haven't missed anything here. Yeah, I'm trying to. I know I had another question for you. Have you received any, whenever you were doing investigations, did you receive any of the reports that had a paranormal aspect to them? Like the orbs or portals or minds?
Personally, no. My only experience with that kind of stuff has been kind of third party, just reading it, for other people's stories, um, and it's certainly interesting, but I haven't personally run into it. Um, well, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. There's definitely some interesting stuff that happens, and the correlations are certainly fascinating. I like the discussion about, like, I see a lot of correlation between UFOs, UAPs, things like that too.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of it. I'm not going to pretend like I do know, but because all I can do is be honest about what I've experienced and seen. But not against hearing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All you can do is say, well,
Yeah.
I haven't experienced it, but you can't say, no, that can't have happened. That
Yeah.
never
It's
happened. You're making it up. No,
yeah.
you can't say that.
Yeah.
You have to be open to, hey, anything's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. And like I said, at the end of the day, the more people who share and more people who talk and get part of the conversation,
Mhm.
the better. There's no downside to that. Um, and anyone who discourages, for whatever reason, someone sharing their story, that I get more frustrated by than any story that potentially counteracts my own perspective or pushes me in terms of my perspective on things. I'm willing to be pushed. I want to be. I want to be stretched. I want to learn. Um, I get more frustrated with those who just
Yeah.
reject, and it doesn't mean I'm going to completely reform my perspective on the matter based on one or two anecdotal stories, but I do want it to be included,
Mhm.
because I know what it feels like to not have my own relatively small story not feel welcome, and I just don't think that's helpful for what we're doing here.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Now, have you stayed in contact with the, uh, what was it, three guys that you were out with?
So the one guy was a close personal friend of mine, and yeah, so I stay in touch with him fairly regularly. The other two guys, one of them I'm friends with on Facebook. I occasionally hear from him if, like, our episode, he calls it our episode even though he wasn't there, runs on TV or something, or he'll shoot me a message. But and then the fourth guy I haven't stayed in touch with, but yeah, it's three of us for sure. I mean, the two of them I met just we just showed up at this expedition, you know. But for sure, yeah, the one I was with, his name is Ben. Ben and I, you know, are almost in weekly contact these days, just touching base. And he doesn't go public with the story. He still currently serves in the military, and he's mentioned it here and there on public forums, just kind of like anecdotal, like just very under the cuff, like, yeah, I was part of this story. I've heard him on another podcast related to what he does professionally, where he was like, you know, he was randomly questioned, what's something about you that no one knows? And he's like, well, I had a Bigfoot encounter, and and my story was told on this episode.
Wow.
Yeah, so he'll mention it, but he doesn't like blast about it.
Yeah.
He certainly didn't. He didn't follow my track, which was to like dive in headfirst into the whole phenomenon and just like become enamored with it.
You sound like me, because I do the same thing. I jump in with both feet, and that's it. You know,
Yeah.
I immerse myself.
Yeah. I mean, my kids have been raised in this thing. Like I have bookshelves, you know, full of books, and you know, if there's a new show on TV or something on YouTube I'm watching, like they catch wind of it. So I mean, I'm wearing a Bigfoot shirt, for goodness sakes. I have Bigfoot hats, and you know, and sometimes I use that kind of stuff. This is worthwhile conversation. Sometimes I use this stuff, like I wore this shirt today, you know, doing hospice visits, and you know, just normal. Most people just normal button-up shirt, right, with a collared shirt or something. But occasionally someone will notice it, and it will trigger a conversation. And something fascinating happened about a week ago. I was at a doctor's appointment, and I had my car key out, and I have a leather Bigfoot cut out, like a leather Bigfoot on my keychain. And I had put the keys down on the table in the doctor's office, and the doctor, she looked at it and said, "Tell me about that. Is that a Bigfoot on your keychain?" And here it turned into this. I had my appointment, and we were just finishing up. I was like grabbing my stuff, putting it back in my pockets, getting ready to leave. I sat back down for like another 15 minutes, where she went on to tell me about her own Bigfoot encounter that she had never gone public with, for reasons that we could probably all understand, like, you know, based on her career and what she does for a living. But went on to tell a story about how she was a child camping in Cook Forest. Actually, that Cook Forest was brought up with her family. She was like 11 or 12, and it was early in the camping season, early, you know, spring or summer, something like that. And she said there was something throwing rocks at them while her and her family were sitting around a campfire. They heard noises, howls and hoots and things, and at the time, you know, for a long time, she just considered it to be like this weird occurrence, like didn't really give much thought about it.
Yeah.
Of course, she was young. She was a little frightened by it. But years later, was flipping TV channels and stumbled upon Monster Quest or one of these shows, and they talked about something similar happening to someone camping. And she said, "Oh, it brought back all these memories." And she said it sent me into a bit of a deep dive into the subject, and helped me realize that, yeah, I probably had an encounter that I didn't realize, of course, when I was so young. But again, she wouldn't really talk about it. But because I had the keychain that she saw it, and I mentioned I was on Finding Bigfoot, and I had this encounter in Michigan, she felt safe to share her encounter with me. And I said, you know, you gotta, you know, there's groups that you should share this with. You know, even though it's, you know, however many years, 20, 30 years ago, probably, or even longer since that happened, she should, you know, certainly talk about it and contribute it to the database, because it all helps. And
It does.
it was just that, so little things like that. I think, you know, the more we can encourage people to tell their story and to be part of the overarching conversation, the better. But yeah, so I certainly will do things like that. You know, I have a shed on my yard that has a big like windmill kind of turnstile thing. You know, usually has like a chicken on it. I have one that has a Bigfoot on it. You know, just, you know, letting people know it's safe to tell me their story. Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
You know, that's my kids' age. So you know, I can only imagine if they had some sort of experience. We probably have nightmares for a long time. But
Yeah, well, it was the same with me. You know,
yeah.
I had some, well, my first sighting, I was 11 years old.
Wow.
And I had, you know, we would go camping up in um, the Forbes, what is the state forest,
Hmm.
whenever I was a kid. And
Hmm.
I would get rocks thrown at me and
Yeah.
different things like that would happen to me also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope that she does
Yeah. Well,
start.
I'll be seeing. I mean, she's my doctor, so I'll be seeing her again. And so it's certainly going to be something I, you know, hey,
Yes,
have you shared that with any? You know, I can point her towards, you know, your group or you
yeah,
know, a litany of organizations. But
yeah,
um,
she's welcome to join, and
yeah,
she can be anonymous, and
yeah,
you have that choice to be anonymous.
yeah, yeah. It was just really interesting how you know, something as simple as a keychain,
Yeah.
you know, and we see that in terms of you know, faith and things like that. Someone sees you wearing a cross around your neck or something, like, okay,
Hmm.
you and I are, you know, the same. We have a similar perspective, or it makes people feel safe to share their story.
Right.
I try to do those little things to encourage that, just kind of ongoingly. Yeah, I saw a comment saying about a lot of, I see quite a few Squatch stickers on cars in the Pittsburgh area. You're absolutely. I used to have one of mine. Um, I don't have. I was in a car accident not too long ago. I just got a new car, so I haven't put one on the new car yet, but maybe
Oh
I will too.
no. Oh.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's actually the reason I met this doctor was because of some concussion related issues, but
Ooh.
it's we're working through it. It's all good.
Oh
So when I
my.
say my mind isn't quite what it used to be, I'm oftentimes referring to that in my head. I'm thinking about the fact that, because the first sign that something was wrong was I kept forgetting things. I was forgetting simple
Uh,
things, routine things that I took for granted that I would never forget at work, at home, what have you. And my wife pointed out, like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you forgetting these things? And realizing, something's going on upstairs.
apparently so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
left over from that accident.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll keep that in my prayers.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we're on the. It was back in February, so we're certainly on the. You know, knock on wood, and prayers being answered on the healing side of the whole thing.
Yep.
But it was a bit difficult there for a while. Of course, the whiplash and all that junk was, you know, that was one thing. But now it seems like the fog and the brain issues are a
Yeah.
whole nother beast, and they take a while. But
Yeah.
yeah. And we're taking a trip here in a couple weeks. We're driving to Yellowstone the end of the month, and it's something we've long wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um, it's an experience we've wanted to have for a long time, and you know, we're going to be out and about in the wilderness of the, you know, Montana, Wyoming, areas like that. So
Wow.
and when you were talking about, you know, being a young person having some sort of an experience,
Yeah.
you know, that's where my kids are. So thinking, you know, if we're gonna, you know,
Yep.
maybe this trip will bring something like that. We'll see.
You never know.
You never know. You know, I just want to see a buffalo, but not too close.
Go to South Park.
Oh,
That's
that's actually where I have my church. Um, our church worships in South Park.
yeah.
The
They still have the buffalo there.
They do. We every now and then we stop, but they just had a baby. Baby was just born. They made a big splash about it.
Wow.
So it's yeah, it's kind of cool that they're there, but I
Yes.
want to see them roam and free.
Yes. No, yeah,
Yeah,
that's on my bucket list for one of these days
yeah, yeah.
there.
The older you get, the more quickly you realize one of these days they're coming fewer and far between. So
Hmm.
I always encourage, take the initiative. If you want to do something, make it
Yep.
happen as much as you
Oh,
can.
oh, I try to, you know,
Yeah.
I've gone down to Land Between the Lakes
Mm,
a few times and love it there. And next on my bucket list is to get down to Alabama.
mm,
I've got quite a few Bigfooting friends down there,
good.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, get in there.
Yeah, see the sights,
Yeah.
The longer I do the work that I do in hospice care, the more encouraged I find myself to take advantage of the opportunities when you have them, because there's no telling what tomorrow brings. And
Absolutely.
even when you feel like you've got your youth, you've got your able-bodied, more or less, as we all get older, we get a little less and less of that. But the more, every time I talk to some of my patients, especially those who just desperately wish they could take one more trip, just get out there and see the world one more time. I had one particular patient, he would always say before he passed, he said, yeah, don't worry about the money. The money will come. Just take advantage of the opportunities while you have them. Your kids are young. Show them as much of the world as you can. Obviously, you got to do everything within moderation, and can't bury yourself. But at the same time, so many people worry about, can I afford this? Can I afford that? The argument should be, can you afford not to?
That's right.
You got only so many summer breaks left, only so many years left. Take the leap when you can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get out and take those car trips. Gas prices should be coming down a little bit more.
I hear they are. Yeah.
And get out there, travel, and hey, a lot of people car camp.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of. I think you had one of those little cars before, didn't you?
Yeah, I was in a little Volkswagen when it got rear-ended in that.
Yeah.
A big lifted Jeep Wrangler with a push bar and a winch on the front. Slammed into me while I was sitting at a red light and just creamed me and put me in the middle of an intersection. But so I still get a little skittish around Jeeps.
Yeah.
Even though I used to have one, I love the Jeep brand. So don't get me wrong, but I have a little PTSD. But yeah, for work, because of gas prices and everything, I tend to drive little cars. I like to feel like I'm driving a little go-kart. But we have an SUV for the family, so we'll be taking that. We'll be driving that to Yellowstone. 4,000 miles round trip on that thing. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Go car camping.
We might have to. With now the lodging situation in Yellowstone has been a little. People live in a whole different universe out there. When you try to make reservations, they're like, yeah, no big deal. Then you contact them to get a confirmation. They're like, who are you? What are you talking? It's another universe out there.
Wow.
So my wife and I are like, we might be sleeping in the bed of the SUV. We'll see.
There you go. Yeah. Just bring a couple blankets. You'll be fine.
We'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. It's fun. One of my the things I like to say is that life is an adventure.
Yes.
And it is. Treat it as an adventure.
Yeah.
Just live.
I read a book that early on in my life, early on in my adult life, I should say, that encouraged you to live a story with your life. Live the story, a story that you would want to read. If you think about a good book or a good movie, try to make those kinds of choices. What would your favorite character do in these situations? And not necessarily need to go crazy, but at the same time, if you live in constant fear of failure or fear of taking risks, you may miss out on a tremendous amount of opportunity that God's putting right before you.
Yeah.
And that, honestly, that's kind of where the whole Bigfoot trip came from. When we had this experience was because, we came home from the war and thought, let's do something bold. Let's just do something crazy. What's the craziest thing we can think of? Oh, let's go hunt for Bigfoot. We had no idea this world even existed. And you just take those opportunities when they come and live a story. Have a story to tell. Tell your kids, your grandkids. And who knows where that will take you. I had no idea I was going to end up on this podcast. I'll tell you that for sure.
Well, I'm glad that you did.
Yeah. But,
and one thing about this, you always have something to tell your grandkids about.
Yeah. Got on this YouTube channel.
No, your Bigfoot experience.
went from Bigfoot experience to finding Bigfoot to this YouTube. No, I'm just kidding.
And lower you go.
Oh, it's fun. It's funny. I'm just teasing. Nah,
Hey, I think that the Jerry and the Old Line Cryptids, they want you on their podcast next. So, you'll be stepping up.
oh my.
They're good friends.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to share with whomever wants to hear this crazy story. That's all it is, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a crazy life,
Yeah.
that we live also.
I don't know. I don't know if you can see it from the angle that you're at, but I set up. I thought I was setting up like a little studio where I have like my Patty footprint behind me. It's probably displayed behind me, but I wish I had something like this. This one's actually signed by Bob Gimlin in the back.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. I wish I had something like this to bring home from that trip, but
yeah.
I don't even have something as simple as that. But it was all I have is a story to tell, and I'm happy to tell anybody who wants to hear it.
Yep.
Because it's just part of who I am now.
Well, good. It's part of your life now, and you can share it. And it's, well, like we were talking about earlier, who knows where God's going to take you next.
Yeah.
You just have to be open to where he leads you.
That's it. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Just take the next step.
That's right. Well, guys, I don't know if anyone else had any other questions, comments. Thank you, Amanda. You guys are the best. You really are.
I used to have a professor in college who would end every class with saying, "Any questions? Any comments? Any snide remarks?" So I almost said that to you whenever you were saying it. Became second hat for me for a long time.
Write it down and save it.
Yeah. Any questions, comments, or snide remarks? Yeah. No, I appreciate the opportunity to chat, and it's an honor to. I appreciate what you do. As I said before, I think you the way you address this whole topic and the community that you have been building. Kudos to you. You're doing it well. An excellent job. I admire what you're doing, and I'm honored to be part of the show tonight. And
I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if anything else happens in your life that you want to share, give me a holler and we'll get you on.
Yeah, you may see me getting more involved in the group, from time to time. I can't promise anything. Life is kind of busy, but you're practically you're in my backyard. You're a neighbor.
Yeah.
And your group clearly is a good one to be a part of. So I haven't been that engaged in the Bigfooting world for a long time, but the group that you have and then the work that you've been doing has been a good encouragement to me to dip my toe back in the water, so to speak, again.
However much you want to dip that toe in, that's totally up to you. But
yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
so much. But I think it's almost 9:30, and
is it that late already? Oh my goodness,
it is. I know time flies.
Good conversation does that.
Yeah, and it has been, and I appreciate it. Your perspective and your thoughts, and your sharing everything. I really do, and I foresee other, not just Old Line Cryptids, but there's a couple other podcasts that may give you a call. So
right. You have my information. Feel free to share it.
Okay.
I'm an open book, honestly. Whoever wants me to chat, I'm happy to chat with.
Okay, great.
All right.
All right, Tom. Well, I think we'll let you go, and so we'll say good night to you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mary, and thank you for all those who were tuned in.
All right, thank
Have
you.
a good one.
All right, thanks, guys. I think that I appreciate everyone on here, and Jerry, thank you for keeping an eye on the alerting me to a couple things going on in the chat. Yeah, I think we have a couple missing people, a couple missing moderators. The weather's nice outside, so everybody's doing other things, and I appreciate that. But again, thank you guys for coming in. And Jerry, I will give you Tom's contact information. And so let me think. Yeah, last Friday I popped on for a short little test thing. I had to record something, and it kind of turned into a nice little chat. So I just may make a little practice of that, just like on Friday afternoons popping in, and it may be more, or not only Fridays, but some other days that I may just pop on to chat, see what's going on in everyone's lives. Thank you, Patty. Oh, you were mowing. Oh, I appreciate. Oh, Brian. Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm glad that Tom was able to make it on, and yeah, he appreciate. I don't know if you heard, Brian, but he liked your episode also. Okay, guys, I think I shall end it here, and let me think. Next week, let me check my schedule here as to what's going on. Okay, the 11th. Oh my God, next week also, June 11, we're going to have Ron Howes, Howes. And I don't know if a lot of you know Ron from the different festivals, the local festivals and conferences. He is the Bigfoot biker. He dresses up in a Bigfoot costume and rides in on his motorcycle. But he has a special, an organization devoted to helping military veterans suffering from PTSD. And he has a fantastic organization that I am fully in support of. He's a great guy, and he's coming on next week, June 11th, Ron Howes. So make sure that you make it on, okay? You know, yeah, I know, Patty, you know Ron. And so, you know, if you go to a lot of the festivals in Western Pennsylvania, he's been to some, I think in Virginia, and Tennessee also. But he's a good guy. But he will be my guest next week. The 18th, I'm not certain if I'm going to have an episode, a podcast that evening because of the camp out. We'll see. But the 25th is Brian Seach. Brian is head of Center of Unexplained Events and Center of Cryptozoological Studies. He has been a cryptid, paranormal, he's been in this field for over 30 years. He's a good friend. He gave me a lot of guidance and very good help to me whenever I was first dipping my toe, you know, into finding out what was going on outside of my own property. Okay, I think I can stop there because I have no one scheduled yet for July. So we're going to be starting to book people for July pretty soon. So camping if it's not 90 degrees. I know I hate whenever it's really hot and muggy. I can't camp whenever it's too hot. Can't do it. But this will be up in the mountains, Allegheny National Forest, so it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, guys, have a great evening. God bless. And Monkey Wench out.